Three, two. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our show. Explain to me D&D 5e.
The show where we go over our own thoughts and feelings on all the wonderful little rule books that Wizards of the Coast puts out on our favorite edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which is 5e.
And sometimes we also talk about random stuff.
That too.
Let's see. We skipped a week to get ready so we decided to combine the Cleric and the Druid videos together, as we wanted some time to study them and everything. Last time, as you know, we talked about bards. Let's see. So we're looking forward to talking about the Clerics and Druids and how they can affect roleplay. And as you know, this is our mini-series, How Xanathar's Guide to Everything Improved Roleplaying in the game of D&D, especially in 5th edition. So we're going to go and start off. My name's Drew37. This is Red Raven.
Hello.
And we will actually be joined later by a King Teliano, and he'll be a surprise visitor, which you'll be able to see. Let's see. So the first thing, when talking about Clerics, is a regular D&D 5e class. They're your embodiments of your God's divine might or a forced or aspect's will. They pretty much embody that, and that's how they usually get their spells. Oh, go ahead.
They're the healer. They're healing you up.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. So most people see them. Yeah, most people, especially in other RPGs, they see them as healers. But luckily, because Clerics in D&D, they can be technically the everyman. Because there's as long as there's a DD for it, they can do it. Like, for example, Tempest Clerics can be your damage dealers. You, of course, like Red Raven mentioned, what is it? The not healers, what they call them, this domain of life.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Domain of life is your pure healer. Like, I'm gonna go full heals, man. Do extra healing. There's your domain of light, which is like your high damage class, like a sorcerer. What else? Domain of trickery. Domain of
knowledge. There's a lot of domains. War. I got my player's handbook right here, so they've got a lot of campaigns.
Yeah, we'll just say there's a lot and even the other books have added more. Just like this book has added a couple more, which are actually something they really needed to go into avenue-wise, role-playing and gameplay-wise, and we're excited to talk about. But before we get into those subclasses, we're going to talk about as you know, we talk about the tables and little extra variant rules that Xanathar's Guide does for the class. So I'm going to let Ray Raven start with the first part.
Okay, so see the first part we have here is the temple. So as a cleric, you're probably going to train under a god, or of course you don't have to be a god that you worship. It could be like a whole pantheon, a philosophy, or force of nature, or force of the universe. You could be a Jedi and just worship the Force. Who knows? But most of them are going to train somewhere initially, and that's going to be your temple. So you have for your lives of service before you go adventuring, you have a few options of where your temple is or what it is. Got a six options given here to kind of as starter place. Like your temple is the oldest surviving structure built to honor your god. So like the oldest temple, not the first. You could study at a temple where acolytes of several like-minded deities all get together. And probably the most interesting one is you served in a temple in the Outer Planes.
Oh man, that was pretty cool. Yeah. So talking about these temples, so most people, you're probably thinking, when you think temple, you're thinking of like some more like Asian-inspired temple, or maybe if you're thinking of a temple like most clerics would go to, you're thinking of the classic Roman cathedrals, things of that nature.
Monasteries or something like
absolutely. But it can also be something as little as a church. It doesn't have to be something huge and grandiose. But those are just great examples to give. Like the one I like from the list is, and it's my favorite, it's for the Domain of War, is your temple is a fortress and a proving ground that trains warrior priest. So you're not just the classic, hey, let me go door to door and see how everybody's doing, or like, let me go heal the weak. It's like, no, I'm going in. I am if you don't have a paladin, I'm the guy who's showing the divine might of my lord through other means. Let's see. But actually a great example of a temple is, for all my MTG fans out there, let's see, and Red Raven can kind of hear this too. In Innistrad, in the town of Gavany, that's where they have their big cathedral to Avacyn. That would be an example of a temple. Most of your Avacyn clerics or monks train there, and that's where they meet, gather their like-minded people, learn all that kind of good stuff, because Avacyn lives there, or lived there. Not here or there. That's part of the story. But that's just a great example if you're a big MTG fan. Red Raven, do you have any examples of one from like maybe another story or something else?
I mean, there are tons of stories. Probably as far as in the D&D realm, the more which I've been working my way through both campaigns on watching them as the Critical Role. They have the whole city of Vasselheim, which is pretty much made up of several temples, districts dedicated to a specific temple. Um, One similar to the Fortress one is the one the area dedicated to Cord, so which is pretty much just training for warriors, where they have like the Crucible and like fighting arenas and stuff like that. So it's all pretty interesting. So
Hey, that's a great way to start a paladin or a monk or a barbarian or a cleric to pick your pick.
yeah, I pick any warrior with a religious background, and you've got a good start out there. So.
Let's see. Sorry about that. Went off tangent. My apologies, but I liked your example. Thank you.
Yep.
Let's see. So the next part, I'll go ahead and jump into. It's keepsakes. It's a temple. It's a temple. It's a table that pretty much it gives you the options of having items that are either important to your faith, important to you, like the vows you made in the church or into your temple or into your vows, pretty much. Or it could be something that is the reason why you're on this chosen path. Why did you take the way of peace, or why did you take the way of protecting others? That's your item that symbolizes that, or that's the reason why. So a couple examples they give is this is kind of a rerun for me, so I understand, but it's kind of weird. It's you have the finger bone of a saint, like it teaches like maybe attached to a necklace or in your pocket. It's to remind that. Go ahead.
Actually, that is really historical based because churches in the medieval times would always have finger bones. They'd say is from a specific saint, stuff like that. So I like that one.
That is true. Let's see. I'm not gonna lie. As a Christian myself, I don't know if I'd want to carry around the bones of saints in my pocket, but I can see why that's important. Let's see. Thanks. That was actually a really good example. Another one. This is my favorite. It's it's a rune stone said to be blessed by God. So it reminds me of the different Irish and Celtic things where they have holy stones or holy markers that have been touched by their priest or they've been maybe touched by different followers of the faith. That's what it reminds me of. So that's something like physical. It was either a congregation meant there, or actually it'd be like taking a stone from the city of Jordan, for example. That's how I feel about it. But so, what were some of your favorites from the table, Jake? Red Raven.
One of them, the one that sticks out is it's really works with one of the new domains in this book. Is a scroll that describes how best to rid the world of necromancers.
Ooh.
I think that would very very well fit with the grave domain that we'll talk about later.
Hopefully in a few minutes here.
Yeah.
That's actually a really good pick. All right, so take it away. Next one, Red Raven.
Okay, so secrets. So your cleric might have a secret, like what tempts you, what you maybe have a dark past or something like that. This table gives you a few starting off points. The first one, an imp offers you counsel. You try to ignore the creature, but sometimes its advice is helpful. So lots of interesting little things. Like maybe your cleric is oftentimes tempted by lust. Maybe he's a lecher.
Classic.
And that's his vice. That's his secret. Or maybe he's got a dark past. Like you're plagued by nightmares that you believe were sent by your god as punishment for some unknown transgression. Or there's one you believe that in the final analysis, the gods are nothing more than ultra powerful mortal creatures. So maybe you have some doubts, and it kind of gives you a bit of a flaw for your character to work off.
Hey, that's pretty good picks. So I'm gonna talk about the table, and I'm gonna use some references from other stories. So one of my two favorites from the table is the number 3, which is number 4. It's you can work divine magic. You're an embodiment of the gods' wills and such, and you're their vessel. However, you've never felt the divine yourself. It's like, for example, let's say it was a disciple who can work miracles, but they've never truly believed themselves or never felt anything themselves. Everyone else can feel it around them that they work with, but they can't. Let's see. The next one is, for example, my other one is it's the one plagued by nightmares where you feel like you get these nightmares or you get these visions where you feel like you're being punished for some past sin, something you've done wrong, or maybe somebody in your family's done wrong, something like that. And pretty much you're like, hey, I don't want to have these nightmares anymore. I don't want to have these visions. Let me try to amend and keep doing this. Now, outside, we're going to use Innistrad again from MTG. Gavany, where the Church of Avacyn is, the cathedral, the leader, Micaeus, the Lunarch, before he got turned into an undead creature, he was one of the only members in the planes, except for the other members of the Lunarch Council, who knew about Avacyn being locked in the Hell Vault, which was actually a prison for demons, because she got pulled in by a demon named Griselbrand. But that was his secret, because he was still trying to tell everybody that Avacyn was there, but like everybody's holy powers were winning and everything like that. So it kind of, he was still lying to his to his flock. So like Jacob said, that can be something that either affects you or affects others. Anyway, Red Raven. So now I take it we are moving to the Divine Domains.
Yeah. So first off, we have the Forge domain. So Gods of the Forge. I know a lot of people are going to be tempted to make a dwarf cleric of the Forge domain. It just seems natural, right?
Heck, even the picture in the book, I wish I had the book to show you a picture of, it even shows a dwarf.
Yeah. The dwarves who are famous for their craftsmanship of metals and such, and their god Merodin is of the Forge domain. So, that's interesting. Do you want to take the... So, you're looking at this, they do list some
other ones.
Other gods. The two that stick out, Reorx and Moradin, are both dwarven gods. One from Dragonlance, Kryn, and Moradin from the Forgotten Realms. But you also have Hephaestus, the Greek god. A few other ones I'm not too familiar with. Onatar, Gond, and Goebenu. Is that how you pronounce that name?
Gibenu. I'll take it.
Gibenu, yeah.
But heck, you could even use real world aspects. So, for example, let's see, Roman pantheon. Who was, because Hephaestus was the
Hephaestus. Yeah, well, I mean, it's the same god, different name, I think.
But you could even still use real world examples. For example, God of War. What was the Norse? Who was the Norse creator of weaponry? He was even in the new Avengers movie.
Well, that would be... Well, no, So the god of the forge, I think, in Norse mythology is Thor. Because he makes the thunder by beating his anvil.
Absolutely.
But if you're talking about the dwarves out of God of War, Sindri and... God, what's the other one? There's two of them, the two brothers.
I know who you're talking about. Point is, you could even use other aspects like that, or heck, from like other books and things of that nature. As long as they've worked if you're a metal worker, you could even use it as an art form, as weird as it sounds. So my character in Red Raven's campaign, he is a servant, an MTG deity of Perforos, who not only is he makes weapons from a forge, but he also makes works of art. He's a creator and also a destroyer, and that's who he serves as a forge cleric, and that's who he worships, and he wants to make the world's strongest weapon, but also make he appreciates metal works of art, and that's the cool thing about the forge domain is there is a kind of some things you can look at, but the classic way, like Red Raven was saying, just go for pretty much gods who make the best weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Moving on from that, so we're going to talk about the cool thing is you get a lot of cool domain spells that are roleplay and combat oriented. They can be rolled with both. So we'll go down the levels. For first level, you get Identify and Searing Smite. Identify is just one of the best spells in the game. To be honest, not for combat, but for like, hey, I need to know what this item is, or I need to know what it does.
I get this magical item. I want to make sure it's not cursed.
Bingo.
As a DM, that's kind of, if you got someone with Identify, it's kind of hard to throw cursed items their way and hope that they just use them. So.
And the other one they get is Searing Smite, which is pretty cool. It's actually usually a paladin spell. Let's see, and it pretty much makes your weapon burst into flame. So in this aspect, they're using it to represent the heat of the forge is covering your weapon. So at least that's how I see it. How do you think of it, Red Raven?
That sounds about right. It's more like divine fire being it as a smite.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's about right.
Let's see. Then at third level, you get him heat metal, the magic weapon. Which heat metal is a. It sounds weird. So heat metal, most people would be like, wait, so you're just melting metal? No, it's more about like, let's say you just point at somebody who you think is like a infidel or something like that, or who insulted your works or insulted your god. You could pretty much point at their armor or their weapons, and it heats it up to an intense degree where they can't even hold it or they can't wear it because it damages them.
Yeah, if you want an enemy to drop a metal weapon, that's a good way to do it.
Heck, my favorite is so again using the armor, just burning somebody alive with their armor from the inside. It's
You're
pretty dark.
sadistic.
It's pretty sadistic.
Yeah.
Let's see. My character does that. So the other one is magic weapon. It's classic. It's actually a wizard spell. You can touch weapons when you cast it, and they get the magical property. They get +1 to their damage, and it increases with the higher level spell slot you use. So it can be +2, +3 for so long in the day. It's actually really cool because so let's say you cast it on a bow, for example, it turns every piece of ammo magical as well, or it makes you your other characters feel stronger. Or heck, you can use it on your own weapon. What do you think of it, Red Raven?
I think yeah, it's a pretty handy spell to have. Especially early on in the game where you're probably not having magical items drop out of the sky as much, or you don't have those magical weapons. You run to a creature that's magical resistance. It's good to have.
Hey.
I'm having to look up some of these spells, so I'm not extremely familiar with all of them.
Oh yeah. So the other reason is because me, I have to as we're both DMs, and so I pretty much am a nerd. I've tried to memorize the spell book by hand. I have an app. It's really cool if you can ever get it, especially if you're DMs out there. There's a cool app, at least it's on Android. I don't know if it's on iOS, but it should be. The 5th edition spellbook, great. This guy did a really good job. You can get the UA, the Unearthed Arcana, you can get the Xanathar guide spells, you can get Sword Coast Adventures Guide, and you get the basic player's handbooks. And he has the spells in there, so you can have like quick references. You don't have to worry about like flipping through pages. Let's see. Oh, sorry about that. Went off topic. My apologies. But the app is cool.
Give us money.
Give us money.
No.
Hey, his stuff is free, so I think it's cool.
Yeah.
I donated him to him because I thought I donated about $5 to him. I thought he was cool.
No, it's like the creator of this, sponsor. No, I'm joking.
Heck, anyway, so where was I? So at fifth level, you get elemental weapon and protection from energy. Elemental weapon is just not really an upgrade, but more so a add-on benefit to magic weapon. So you know how magic weapon, I said it gives you +1, +2, +3. Elemental weapon, you pick when you touch that weapon a elemental force: thunder, lightning, fire, ice, water, wind, earth, heart. Sorry, let's see. But you pick one of those, and it lets the weapon do extra damage on top of its regular damage with that element, and it continues to grow as you cast a little higher level. So 2d8, 3d8, so on and so forth. It's cool because my wife got excited. She plays a character in Red Raven's campaign. She plays a arcane archer, and she's always wanted to shoot like arrows of fire. And so she kind of talks smack about my character. His name is Altaner because he has very low charisma. He's not very personable. In fact, people hate him because he's like a what'd you guys refer? You say he's abrasive?
I don't remember what Allison called him.
I think they pretty much said he was a butthead in a nice way.
Yeah, I think so, probably.
But once I mentioned, I said, oh, by the way, I can, since I'm 5th level, I can touch your bow and make you shoot magical thunder arrows or fire arrows. She was like, we're going to have to be best friends now. And I was like, well, you're going to have to do a lot of making up. But, so you can do things like that. It can be yourself or it can be others. I'll let Red Raven talk a little bit about elemental weapon and then talk about protection from energy, which is the next spell you get at 5th level.
So yeah, elemental weapon is pretty much what he said. Upgrade from magic weapon. You get the +1, +2, +3, and little extra fire comes in handy in a pinch. If say you finally figure out what that monster's weakness is, and look, elemental weapon, bam! I can do a little bit extra damage to him. Um, Protection from energies, always good to have. Going into if you're traveling planes, like going to an elemental plane, you're gonna be like you go into the elemental plane of fire. You're gonna be running into a lot of Ifrit and fire elementals. Protection from energy, fire. Just keep in mind it is a concentration spell. That's always a good thing to remember is what's a concentration spell and what's not. But it gives you resistance from that chosen element.
Speaking of which, for this subclass, the Force Domain, there's a lot of concentration cells, so be prepared. Let's see. Also, to jump back, great description of protection from energy, by the way, that was awesome. To jump back, I forgot to mention, because I didn't really mention the roleplay aspects of elemental weapon. As you're casting on the weapons or your own weapon, you could say cool things like, let's say your forge god was a one who lived in an Arctic plane, or who lived in a very cold area. When you cast it to do cold damage, you could say you pick up snow off the ground, or you grab a piece of ice from your bag, and you press it against their weapon, and it gets a frosty sheen. You could do things like that, just short little quips that don't, because you only do it once, it's not going to throw too much combat off, but it still makes it feel cool to them and to yourself. What would you do, for example, if you cast an elemental weapon? What type would you pick, Red Raven?
I mean, more situational thing. I think.
Just pick one and say how you would do it, though. How would you describe it?
So if I was to go acid, I would say green ore would cover the weapon, and as it swung, flecks of acid would come off of it.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
And you hear the sizzles of burning.
Yeah.
I like it. Anyway, so we're moving on to 7th level. So we have Fabricate and Wall of Fire. So Fabricate, that's a tough kind of spell. It's a creation spell. Let's see, and I'm actually going to pull up the spell for this because I know the basics, but I want to actually give you guys the correct, the full.
So
go ahead.
So for Fabricate, what you need the because I was just looking at it, you need all the materials, but if you have the raw materials, you can use those raw materials to create a large or smaller item. And it does give dimensions for that item, if I can find it again. But it's a permanent non-magical item, is what it is. But you have to have you're in theory just creating an item out of raw materials in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And it feels cool because you could be meditating, for example, with these materials around you, and they start pulling together and forming into this thing like a bridge or a shield or something like that. They just start forming together.
Well, I wouldn't say bridge because it's large.
Well, for some reason,
would be a bit bigger.
One said
10 foot.
Go ahead.
Yeah, 10-foot cube contained within a 10-foot cube, or 8 connected 5-foot cubes.
You could do a bridge possibly.
Yeah, I guess so.
It would have to be
it'd be a small one.
5 feet is enough for people to stand on.
Yeah, it would have to be made out of wood because if you upgrade it to metal, stone, or mineral, it has to be it can't be any larger than medium.
It'd be a wooden bridge.
5-foot cube. So yeah, a wooden bridge or a rope bridge.
A wooden rope bridge.
Yes. Suspension bridge.
Nice. And then you can just destroy it real quick and be done with it.
It's a scale model, the Golden Gate Bridge, even though I don't know what that is in this world.
So the next one is Wall of Fire. There's really nothing we could do to explain. Really can't explain that. You summon a Wall of Fire. You could roleplay it whatever you want. You could say you hit your hammer against the ground, sparks appear and turn into this inferno of a giant wall or circle around you, or wherever you point, and it just does damage to things inside of it, burning them alive. Let's see. Really, unless you can go off that Red Raven, is there anything I should?
No, there's not much. Oh, I create a wall of fire. The fire bursts up in the ground.
It does a lot of damage when they walk.
It does a lot of damage. Yeah.
Think of a fireball. There's really no way you can it's just a fireball. Fireball. So roleplay, it makes it kind of hard. Like I said, you could describe the way you're casting it, but really it's just a wall of fire. That's the only one where I was like, that's kind of hard to describe. In a interesting way. Let's see. So the last level spells you get from this class is 9th level. You get Animate Objects and Creation. Animate Objects. Oh my gosh, it is.
Real quick interjection. Now, when we say 9th level, these are not 9th level spells. These are spells you get at 9th level.
At 9th level. All these spells you get at those levels. They're actually lower level spells, but they're still pretty cool because they're ones that clerics normally couldn't get.
Well, no one cast a ninth level spell at ninth level, so
Oh
if
yeah,
you're
that's true.
doing that, you got some broken magical items.
That's a lot of homebrew right there.
That's a lot of homebrew.
So at ninth level character level, or class level, you get animate objects and creation, which animate objects is one of my favorite spells in the game. You can do some funny stuff or some creative stuff with it. That's like you see the pictures of the bookcase coming to life and hitting people with their books or something like that, or the what else? The candles coming to life and starting to smack people with the ends of their candlesticks. Or what's a great one, for example, Red Raven, you can think of?
It's books flying at people.
Yeah.
The big old haunted mansion, books and furniture, and
Mm.
or hey, look. Or the easy one, look, there's a sword on the wall. I'm gonna animate that.
Heck, you could make a book golem if you wanted, because it says you can
Yeah.
make huge creatures, and you can just have like a big golem made out of books and bookcases. Now I just want to make a bookcase golem now.
I think it's only up to a certain amount of items, like 10, I think.
Let me check, but you can also make them big size. That's what I'm saying. So you would just
Yeah.
combine. That's how I'd say it.
Well, yeah. So up to 10 non-magical items. Medium targets count as 2. Large targets count as 4. Huge counts as 8. So I mean, you could like just you choose large items and
And
it'd
I'd
be a very
say
simplistic construct, but yeah, book bookcase golem.
bookcase golem. Hey, you could have a huge bookcase golem that does a lot of damage because they get their own hit points, they get their own armor class, they get their own attacks. It's a really cool spell, and it's really cool to roleplay. We've just been describing how you could do it. You could say your eyes close, and all of a sudden the books around you in your study start flying towards the enemy, smacking him over the head, or like what Red Raven said, the swords on the wall in your armory just start flying up and dueling people. All kinds of cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, or the rocks around you, something like, or trees or stakes and stuff like that. Of course, if you're in a very sparsely populated dungeon, you might not be that useful, but those are situations.
Heck, turn the treasure chest against somebody. You already looted the
Yeah,
treasure chest. Why not hit somebody with it?
it's a mimic.
It's a real life mimic.
It's roll a deception check on whether that's a mimic or not.
It's a mimic that does 2d6 plus 1 damage per hit. Anyway, so it's just some cool things. That's why animate objects is one of my favorite spells, because it is a great fun spell. It's great for a party because it adds more party members to the party, quote unquote, for a minute. But it also is fun to roleplay, and you can just pick random items for it to go off of. Let's see. What's the next one I said? Creation. So creation is kind of a really upgraded version of fabricate, because you can do a lot more things with it. So I'm gonna let Raven go into this one.
So the difference between creation and fabricate, the item is permanent. You need the material, but the item is permanent. Creation is you're creating something out a non-living object of out of material. You can be used. You can be anything really, but depending what it's made out of, it's going to depend on how long it lasts. So vegetable matter lasts a day. You're actually pulling this out of the Shadowfells, what the spell says. So this is not like something you're probably crafting, but you're well, no, yeah, shadow material. You're crafting it out of shadow material, is what it is, and doesn't last forever. But if you need to deceive somebody, or because it's an illusion, if you need to deceive somebody, like, hey, look at this gem, and you just have to deceive them for 10 minutes, you can try to trade a gem for an item, and then run away.
You got 10 minutes.
You got 10 minutes. You got 10 minutes before that thing poofs back into shadow.
Or until they cast detect magic and they're like, wait a minute.
Well, I don't know why. Well, as long as you don't say it's magic, they're probably not gonna cast detect magic.
This is true.
Yeah.
Most shop owners aren't wizards. Now, if you go to a wizard's shop, you deserve to get that happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah, they're gonna inspect gems.
Heck,
have a really high charisma when trying this, though.
Yep. Heck, they might even inspect your gold at that point. They'll be like, hey, if you're a magic caster, I know the deal.
Take a bite out of it.
have some fun. It's a fun spell. You can roleplay, and also it's really useful for, like Red Raven said, for deception, for just quick items you need. Like if you need to build a bridge and you don't have any items on you, bam, you could just create them with the Shadowfell since they last a day. All kinds of cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, cast at higher levels, you can make larger items.
So now we're going to get into the meat of the class. Luckily, so the spells are the hardest part with Clerics because they always get bonus spells, but the rest of the stuff is pretty easy because they have less features than some other class because of the spells. So the first being they get bonus proficiencies. The Forge Cleric, they get heavy armor. It's Smith's tools. Again, you're representing your deity of the forge. You are actually at the forge yourself. You're making these items. You're making these metal pieces of art. All this kind of cool stuff. You also get, which Red Raven can take,
Blessing of the Forge. You at first level, you gain the ability to imbue magic into a weapon or armor. At the end of a long rest, you can touch one non-magical object that is a suit of armor or a simple or martial weapon. Until the end of your next long rest or until you die, the object becomes a magic item, granting +1 bonus to AC if it's armor, or +1 bonus to attack and damage rolls if it's a weapon. You can only use it after a long rest, so one kind of a once per day thing. Non-concentration, so pretty much similar to a low-level magical weapon without having to concentrate on it.
And the cool thing is it also says armors. It affects too. And the reason I like this is because he said so once per long rest, but it also says it lasts the whole rest. It ends when you take the long rest, and then at the end of your rest, you pick something else. So pretty much it's referencing like you're at the forge and somebody says, "Hey, I need you to make my sword's not doing enough damage, or I'm having issues. Can you help me out?" Bam, you're hitting your maul against her. Bam, you're hitting your little smith's tools.
I think just touching would
You
be
touching
fine.
is too. For me, I like to. You know me, I like to go in.
Yeah, you like to. Yeah, hitting somebody with your maul while they're wearing armor.
I meant the women. Yeah, that's
magic
true.
is a little. Oh, you only hit the women with the maul.
Yep. The weapon. I would make them take off anything they want me to do because hey, hit me while I have my armor on. Okay. They just like fly 10 feet. But yes, absolutely. You can just touch it. You can just say like divine auras surround you and like ghostly flames, and as soon as you touch it, it jumps onto their items. For example, you can roleplay it, and it's a really good ability. It's just both good. It's good in roleplay and good in ability. It's a great ability for first level character.
Yeah, I think I'd like a little bit subtler approach where you just kind of you rub the item and it starts to glow, and it's just a bit more subtle.
You just rub your hands.
Yeah.
Clear. Next is so you get Artisan's Blessing. So clerics have a special ability called Channel Divinity. Oh, go ahead, Red Raven.
The good old ability that allows you now you get this for every cleric, and you're always going to have the ability to turn undead or eventually destroy undead. But each domain gives you a specific little different feature. This one is Artisan's Blessing. No.
And how I see that is it's the deity themselves, or the force, or the philosophy, is channeling their force through you. And that's what a channel divinity is. That's how I feel about it. And so, Artisan's Blessing, it lets you do an hour-long ritual where you can craft items using pieces of metal, wood, ammunition. You can craft items by doing this channel divinity. It takes the item ends up 5 feet in front of you from you make it, and you can't be worth more than 100 gold. So sorry, no level 2 plate mail. Some people are probably like, "Oh yeah, plate mail." No, plate mail's not 100 gold. But you could make like a sword. You could make a bow. You could make a shield. You can make some pretty good items that maybe the party can afford, or you
just need You just need ammunition for a sling or arrows or bolts. It just has to include metal, so it doesn't have to be completely metal.
Mm-hmm. You can even do things such as you can duplicate things like keys. As if you have it, you can duplicate it. So you could, let's say your party is splitting and you need to break into this fortress and you have a key, you could make a copy of the key, so both of you have it in case somebody gets in trouble with the last one. Next one is pretty simple. I'll let Red Raven take that one.
Soul of the Forge. You become resistant to fire and get a +1 bonus while wearing heavy armor. Not much to add there. Maybe Maybe when you're fighting, you look a little bit more redder, or
You don't
your
get
armor kind of shines while you're wearing heavy armor. I don't.
you don't get burned at the forge as often.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next one is the. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
You walk in and everybody else is hot. Like, aren't you hot in that heavy armor? Oh, I'm good, man.
What? This is a normal Tuesday for me.
Yep.
As Bison would say, it's just a
Mm.
Tuesday. Let's see. So 8th level. So clerics, just like with the Chant Divinity, they get things like divine strikes, where they get extra damage to their spells or extra damage to their hits, depending on their deity or their domain. With forge clerics, they get fire damage, and when they hit creatures with weapons, they do an extra D8 of fire damage, and this one goes up as your levels increase. Just like with the Soul Forge, not really so much roleplay. It's just like your weapons are always imbued. You don't have to use spells anymore. They're always imbued with the fire of your god now, or your force, or your philosophy. And last but not least,
Saint of Forge and Fire, very similar to Soul of Forge, but you gain immunity to fire damage. Immunity to any kind of damage, especially fire, one of the more common damage types, is always pretty nice. Especially when you have that fireball happy mage on your side that doesn't know not to fireball the party. And then also, while wearing heavy armor, you gain resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage from non-magical attacks.
hey,
Always,
that's pretty cool.
always, resistance and immunity damage is always nice.
Just great abilities for your party.
Yeah, not so much that's going to shine in a roleplay aspect.
Unless somehow you end up in a tribal meet where you have to walk across coals or something like that. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. But that's at level 17, that would be an interesting situation. You could come. It's really going to be dependent on what your DM throws at you.
Yep. Maybe you have to go into a temple that's surrounded by flames.
Yeah. Or just walk through the fire. Like, hey, someone throws up a wall of fire. It's like, I got this. You just stroll on through.
And as you play Dragon Force in the background.
Yeah. The fire and the flames.
So now we get to finally move on to the second cleric class. This is actually taking longer than we expected, but it's pretty cool.
It was the spells, those pesky domain spells.
So we're going to try to be a little bit faster with the next one, but we're still going to go into detail if possible. So next we have the Grave Domain, and this is one of Red Raven. You said this is one of the cool ones you liked?
Yeah, this is pretty cool. I think the cliche with people when picking this is they want to play the Grim Reaper. Which is they want to dress in all black and wield the scythe. And we've had the two Grave Domain clerics that have played in our games have wielded scythes, I believe.
Anibi, Asmira, anybody else?
Those have been the only two grave clerics.
No, they've actually been the evil version, the Death Domain.
No, the Death Domain? I thought they were Grave Domain.
Nope, they were Death Domain.
Oh, okay. Well, same kind of situation.
Yep.
But I was.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I've actually designed. You always create, and Eric is far guilty about this than anybody else.
Hey.
Or Druid 37 is guilty about this far more than anybody else, where you make characters and never get a chance to play them because there's not enough games. I've been thinking who's actually this character who's an NPC is a Grave Domain cleric, but he has a shovel, and of course I was just going to have a battle axe that looks like a shovel or something as his weapon.
Oh, that guy's cool.
Yeah, but I think. Sorry, man, I keep interrupting you, but I think a good enemy, like a natural born enemy for this domain, is the Necromancer. It's the undead. Like these are the guys that want to keep the dead. They don't want them to rise.
That's actually a great example, and I was actually going to bring that up. So the difference between the Circle of Death domain and not the Circle of Death, the Death domain and the Grave domain is the Death domains want to become masters of death. They want to be like death incarnated. They want to be either they're the evil or neutral. They're like, they cause people to die. That's their thing. While the Grave Domain is, like Red Raven said, they want to make death a natural part of life. They hate necromancers. They hate people illegally not legally, but like wrongly bringing people back to life, either as corpses or forcibly being resurrected multiple times. They are enemies of that.
Yeah.
They're kind of the good aligned version of the death domain.
Like these guys are gonna hate liches, like Vecna or I don't know if I'm pronouncing this as a Sararak, I think it is.
I think that's correct.
Yeah, from the um Tomb of Annihilation,
Mm-hmm. Or they would.
and or Orcus, the Demon Prince of Undeath.
Mm-hmm. That's actually good examples. They would have also hated Jurgen from the campaign I hosted for you guys, who had a whole army of undead, and who
I
was
think
just
everybody hated Jurgen. Everyone hated him.
Everybody did.
Yeah.
He was my stereotypical. So most of the time, I try to make my evils guys have like ambitions, things of nature. He was my classic Saturday morning cartoon evil guy. Like he's just evil. Like Burns Orphanage is evil kind of stuff. Like everybody just needs to hate him. There is no sympathizing with that guy. He was fun to play. Moving on. So they get some spells. These are mostly, there is some roleplay aspect, but they're mostly mechanical. At first,
Yeah, I think maybe instead of going, we don't need to go in depth with these spells.
Yep.
If you're curious about what they are, just give them a little look up. Because I think some of these are actually
already in the cleric class.
Yeah, but you just get them at an earlier level.
Yep. So we'll just go ahead and run through them real quick. So, Bane, simple and easy. You curse people. It's the opposite of bless. It's simple as it is. Those people aren't going to have a good time. They're going to be tripping over themselves for 9 yards. There's false life. You give people an extra bit of temporary hit points that makes them a little bit harder to kill. It's literally like fake life because it's not your real part of your health.
They're temporary hit points.
Bingo.
Yeah.
So we also have
Gentle Repose and Ray of Enfeeblement. Gentle Repose, I'm not too familiar with. I guess maybe extra healing.
No, Gentle Repose is actually it stops people from resurrecting. I believe it's kind of like, remember Ceremony I used.
Yeah.
It's a more intense version of that. In fact, Gentle Repose, you touch a corpse and other remains for the duration. They're protected from decay and can't become undead. It's what pretty much like your cleric who would be burying people. It'd be what he'd be casting to stop people from being raised.
Stop the curse of undeath.
Yes.
Following that, Ray of Enfeeblement. It pretty much weakens your enemies, enfeebles them.
You're speeding up their death because you're making their body more sickly and weak.
Yeah.
Then we have Revivify and Vampiric Touch. Revivify is pretty easy. It's just an early level, 5th level resurrection spell. It doesn't regenerate body parts, though. It doesn't do anything like that. It's just a...
you also have to cast it within the first...
Oh, yeah.
Minute of their death. It's the in-combat, pick-me-up.
It's better for combat than it is for roleplay because you have to move quick.
Yeah.
You'd have to do it it'd be like the paramedic type thing, like you need to be quick. Hey, it's a paramedic spell. That's perfect. Then there's Vampiric Touch. That one's pretty self-explanatory. It gives you extra damage, and when you do damage to people, you suck their life essence from their body, and it goes into yours, thereby healing you in the game. Mechanics, it heals you. Let's see. At 7th level, you get...
Blight. So you're blighting them. You're giving them some sort of sickness. I believe this is also the one that insta-kill plants. I think it is. Yeah, I think that's right. And then Death Ward, so allows them to stave off death. So I think they drop down to 0. They go back to 1 hit point, I believe. Is that correct?
That is correct. And also to add on to Blight. Correct. This is just because Blight is one of my favorite spells we're played too. Just to add on real quick, Blight is a great way to make a treant tribe, or whatever they call them, a treant grove.
Treant.
Yeah, treant.
Yeah.
A grove to hate you. Like if you cast that in a forest or cast that where they live, they're gonna be after you.
Yeah, don't cast that near Treebeard. You will stomp.
Yep. And then last but not least, at 9th, character level 9th, you get anti-life shell and raise dead. Pretty much things when you cast a shell, things have a hard time. Things that are living cannot enter that space. Ironically, I think you're the only one who's allowed in it, but like other living creatures.
No, you can have your allies.
Oh yeah,
they just can't pass through.
Exactly. So, and nothing from outside can pass through that's living too. Let's see. It's kind of a. It's almost like a weird circle protection. Instead of undead, you're affecting people who are living or creatures that are living.
Mm-hmm.
And then raise
Yep.
dead. It's classic. It's the classic. Let me revive this guy. Warcraft. Take an RPG. Let's res me, please. That's really what it is. Res me, please.
Mm-hmm.
So now to the abilities of the class. We're gonna start off with Red Raven at.
There's Circle of Mortality. At first level, you gain the ability to manipulate the line between life and death. When you would normally roll one or more dice to restore hit points with the spell to a creature at 0 hit points, you instead use the highest number possible for each die. In addition, you learn the Spare the Dying cantrip, which doesn't count against the number of cleric cantrips you know. For you, it has a range of 30 feet, and you can cast it as a bonus action.
So, oh my
So
gosh.
this is pretty big, especially early campaign. If you get some tough, I think in my campaign you guys would have been nice to have a grave domain cleric with this, because if your party is stupid and does some stupid things, they can spare the dying, keep stabilizes, and then oh look, you get max hit points every time I heal you. So this is a good healer. Um, but you're also kind of praying to your deity from a roleplay standpoint, and just get they're rewarding you with that little manipulation of fate, allowing you to God, what is I can't think of the word.
You're stopping
Allowing
somebody's unnatural death. Is pretty much what it is.
yes, yes,
They're dying before they're supposed to be.
yeah. So you're kind of you're because the thing with this domain you're not cutting the string of fate. You're measuring it and trying to uh, keep that from being cut short.
Yep. It's stopping it from being extended and stopping it from being too short.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
mechanically, I will add something on here. Mechanically, so people are probably gonna be wondering who've been experienced D&D players and be like, so what's the difference between the life domain who already gets double healing? There's one difference. This one you have to be at 0 hit points. The other one you do not. This is I need my dudes to already be in a bad spot. The other one doesn't need to be in a bad spot. But that's why this ability is so good because, like Red Raven said, you're making sure the string of fate isn't cut too early.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add that because mechanically I thought it was pretty cool. Moving on to the second ability, level 1. You get Eyes of the Grave. You actually, just like Paladins, you get the ability to sense the presence of undead, who are, it says an insult to the natural cycle of life, which is just a fancy way of saying if, like liches, vampires, zombies, if they're not part of natural death in life, they're unnatural. Let's see. As an action, you can
Which is every undead.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, Ghost would be 2 actually. Ghost is a great example. So Ghostbusters.
Within 60 feet. It doesn't tell you anything about the creature's capabilities, but you can sense them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can say, I know how many undead there are around me, but I don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's funny? Now I was thinking about it. Oh, you can also do this as a number to your wisdom modifier per day. The cool thing is, this is just how my brain works. For some reason, I was thinking the Ghostbusters were Grave Domain Clerics. Now I just want to play a Ghostbuster theme campaign with all Grave Clerics.
Oh, jeez.
Oh my gosh.
None of them would ever die.
Nobody would ever die.
You wouldn't have much damage dealers. The clerics can get some damage in.
They're multi-class. I call them Marshal and Caster. So, Red Raven will take the Channel Divinity for this class.
Channel Divinity, the Path to the Grave. You can use your Channel Divinity to mark another creature's life force for termination. As an action, you choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you, cursing it until the end of your next turn. Next time you or an ally of yours hits the cursed creature with an attack, the creature has vulnerability to all of that attack's damage, and then the curse ends. So this is giving them the old evil eye. You're giving your enemy the evil eye, or cursing them, cursing them to death, pretty much. Like, when you curse them, you can say like a darkness comes down upon them. They just their armor or skin seems to thin. Their armor since to weaken.
That's good. Or like
Yeah.
for the Lich, he feels something he hasn't felt in a long time. He feels the cold hand of death start to grip around his throat and his body, like embracing with a chill that he was been avoiding for his many centuries alive, or things of that nature. You could do it.
At which point a Lich should piss himself to feel that.
Yes, because they're like crap.
Yeah, it's like all this. Yeah.
But I worked so hard.
But you know, you gotta find that phylactery to make it stick, though.
This is true. But that's like Red Raven does. Those are perfect ways to roleplay this. It's a great ability for roleplay, and also for mechanically it adds damage to your other people in the party. It's amazing. Let's see. Next is a path. Sentinel at Death's Door. So you get to impede Death's progress again, stopping the hands of fate if they're bored too early. Yeah, if the hands are brought to bear. As a reaction, when you are a creature you can see within 30 feet of you suffers a critical hit, somebody gets a nat 20 against them, or some other effect, you can turn it into a normal hit. And any effects that a critical hit would have triggered, so like extra damage or like blindness, things of that nature, they are canceled. You literally just made it to where their 20 doesn't matter. Let's see. You can use it equal to a lot of the abilities. Actually, we forgot to mention a lot of the abilities in this subtype are equal to your wisdom modifier. The Eyes of the Grave, the Sentinel Death's Door, they're all equal to your wisdom modifier. So you can at most do it maybe 5 times without magical items and things if you have 20 wisdom. But it is a great effect because if you, like, let's say the DM does let you know when he crits, which usually for this ability to work, you should have a DM that's working with you that's letting you know they crit. Or if you have a DM that rolls in front of the party, you can pretty much, the guy who gets hit and is like, I'm at 1 hit point, I'm dead, you can say, I got you. You're probably still dead, but I got you.
Yeah, you're probably still dead. If they hit you, you're not straight out dying, but hey, yeah.
Yeah. I can keep you alive for when I heal you, at least. Or they're at 10 hit points and a crit would have done 12. You can put it to 6. You can do things like that. Let's see. There's also this, and I'll let Red Raven get the last one because that's the cool one. There's also potent spellcasting. Like I said, with the other domains, you get extra damage either to your spellcasting or your attacks. This one is just you add your wisdom modifier to your damage cantrips for your cleric. So Sacred Fire does extra damage, things of that nature. It's just your extra damage for the cleric spells.
Yeah,
Red Raven?
For cantrips. Cantrips.
This is true.
So at 8th level, I don't know how many cantrips you're getting. If you're bottom of the barrel, it's a little extra punch.
Sacred Fire is still good. It can do some damage. Yeah. And Death's Toll. Death's Toll is a cool cantrip. 1d12 if they've already taken damage. 1d8 if they haven't taken damage. Let's see. So you could add damage to that, for example.
So, Keeper of the Souls at 17th level. You seize a trace of vitality from a parting soul and use it to heal the living. When an enemy you see dies within 60 feet of you, you or one creature of your choice that is within 60 feet of you regains hit points equal to the enemy's number of hit dice. You can use this feature only if you aren't incapacitated. Once you use it, you can't do it again until the start of your next turn.
Oh wow, that's amazing, actually.
That is. I'm just trying to remember how many hit dice.
It depends on the monster.
Are listed, in Monster Manual. I guess they are. I never really paid attention to that.
Yeah, it does. So, in fact, I'll bring an example monster up. We're going to go with one of the most recognizable monsters in D&D, the Tarrasque, of course. So, the Tarrasque, I believe, is in the 15 dice. It should be higher. I'm way off, probably. But I'm gonna bring it up for you guys. TTTT. Actually, I'll bring a random monster. Here, I did page roulette. So the monster that came up is the owlbear. Hey, owlbears. So owlbears are your challenge rating 3 creatures. They can do pretty hard to a early level party, but even they have 7 hit dice. They have 7d10 hit dice. So
okay, yeah, there it is.
You would gain 7 hit points if you killed them.
Yeah, the Autumn. I opened it. I had Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes, which is a nice book. We'll talk about it later. Yeah, I automated up. The Autumn Eladrin stat block is 17d8.
Oh man! So
for hit dice. So that's
at worst you gain 1 hit point.
Yeah.
At best you're gaining possibly 30 or depending on the monster. So, for fun, I will bring up the Tarask, since I'm already in the teas right now. Shambling down. So, but this spell can not only heal others, but heal yourself. This is one of the only spells that can be used by evil and good spellcasters, because you could roleplay it both ways. You could say you're extending your own life force from stealing from your enemies. Oh, and by the way, 33 hit dice for the Tarask.
Okay. I was just looking up for fun. Demogorgon, 28.
Hey! So, but you're stealing the life force from others to extend your life. This is the only one where I think Fate's Hand can be kind of messed with, but it's a great ability. It's awesome. The fact you can do it every every turn, because it's the start of your next turn. It's pretty cool. Not here nor there. So now that we got to talk about clerics.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
As long as something is dying.
Yes, something does have to die.
Yeah. So.
Depending on the situation, something may not die very easily.
Well, see, what you can do is that final boss fight. As you kill the boss, kind of vengeance. You're like, well, you're not getting away so easily. You rip out some of its soul and you use it to res, or to bring
Heal.
back someone who's unconscious. Yeah, not res, but someone who's at 0 hit points and hasn't died yet.
Yep. You borrow
use it to bring them back to consciousness.
You grab some of their soul on the way out. Mm-hmm. That's actually pretty cool. I like that description. That's pretty awesome. Better than the barbarian way where you pull out their heart and feed it into the person who's unconscious. That'd be horrifying.
Eat the heart!
Why are you doing this? It will make you feel better. It goes really well with carrots. So, now that we spent the last hour talking about clerics, a lot of more time than we thought would be, we're going to talk about druids now. Because we said we were going to do this one video, and we're going to do this. We dedicated ourselves. This is going to be a really long podcast/show.
In for a penny, in for a pound.
Next time we'll be doing one class again. We just did take a break for 1 week to do both.
Did not expect this to take this long.
We're waiting for our guest appearance. Speaking of which, have you heard from good Sir King Teleon?
No, I have not since that last text. So.
Alright. So in that case, we'll go ahead and get started. Druids. Oh my gosh, they're so fun. They were broken for my 3.5 players. They were one of the most broken classes, along with most other spellcasters. Because once you get to a certain level, it was, why is the other party members here? I can be by myself. I can do your job better than everybody else here. Luckily, they downplayed them, which is good, but they're still super fun to play. And the subclasses they added in, Xanathars, are even better, and the little roleplay tables they added made it even better. So, I'm going to let Raven start this one.
So, looking at the druid tables, our first thing is a treasured item. Piece that you keep with you, not exactly something that has to be of any kind of actual material value, but more or less value to yourself. So the first one is a twig from the meeting tree that stands in the center of your village. Or a bronze bowl engraved with animal images. So something that is going to be a personal item, something you can build a story around, role-playing wise. Like an item that's special to you, something that's like the first one, the twig, is a memento from home, where you came from.
Let's see. That's actually really good. That's a good point. That's a good example. Mine, for example, for druids, is you could use like pelts of animals that had fallen in the forest, or like pieces of antlers, or maybe even frozen leaves in a piece of ice. Oh, forgot to mention. Druids are the natural spellcasters of D&D. They're like the ones who shapeshift into animals. Especially if you're a big fan of Diablo 2, they use the primary forces of Earth. They summon trees, they summon the elements. Not like shamans, but they summon the elements, and they commune with nature a lot. They're one of my favorite classes to play. So these treasure items throw that even more in perspective. You have Red Raven said, the twig from a special meeting tree in your village. Or my example, you could have like pieces of antlers of some of the caribou or the deer that live in the forest that have been kind of grinding amidst trees. It's just something to remind you why you're a druid, or what is important to you. Next is guiding aspects, which is just a fancy word of saying Um, what do you feel strongly to in the natural world? It could be something physical, such as body, water, animal, or type of tree, or it could be like the bestial nature, the hunt, the calm of the not calm, the tranquility of a stream, things of nature. It can be something physical or something metaphysical. Let's see. Some of the examples they give you on the table is the river's endless flow reminds you of the great span of the world. You seek to act with the long-term interests of nature in mind. Great example of that aspect, by the way, is again MTG. As you can tell, I'm an MTG player. Ixalan, the set, they have river guides and river guards who are pretty much druids, merfolk druids. That's their thing. They each represent a river, and they guard it, and they represent the different types of the aspect of the river, if it's tumultuous, if it's serene, what it does for nature. That's their guiding aspect. So I'm gonna let Red Raven take it away and tell us what his one of favorite ones from the table.
So I like number 2. The oak trees represent strength and vitality. Meditating under an oak fills your body and mind with resolve and fortitude. I think that really I've liked that because that plays into the more historical druids, the druids of Celtic culture that revered the oak and yew, which the yew tree is also up here. Uh, as sacred trees that were, in most uh, would be pagan societies would consider sacred.
I like it. Only you can defend yew trees. That was terrible. I apologize.
Yes.
But so of course, these tables are just examples. As a new player, for the new players listening, make it your own thing. You can use the table, of course, to make it easier for you, especially if you're a new player. But if you're like, hey, but I want to represent like the ferocity of the boar, the resilience that they're always, even when they're smaller than the predator who's attacking them, they're never out of a fight. They never give up. You can do that. Go for it if you feel like it. But the tables just make it easier for newer players. That's also for my experienced players. Roll with it. Let's see. So now we have mentors, which I'll have Red Raven start out.
Mentor. So the kind of guy the person who, or thing, as the table shows, who trained you in the druidic arts, who led you um, through your training to be one with nature. Rolling on this, you have a couple options that are interesting. The first one is a wise treant who taught you to think in terms of years and decades rather than days or months. Second one is a dryad who watched over a slumbering portal to the abyss. So you have a few options here of jumping off points to choose from. Not only do these give you a mentor, but also a bit more of a backstory as to what they were doing you in relation to them.
Heck, that could also be the reason why you pick your circle, to which druids, their subtypes are called circles, and that's where they focus their spellcasting, their abilities. It could also be the reason why you pick your circle. So let's say the third one in this table, your tutor always interacted with you in the form of a falcon. Maybe that inspired you to become a moon druid, because you're like, hey, I'd rather be in my animal form than really any other form. So, because my teacher was always that way. That's what inspired you. Or like when, by the way, Treebeard teaching you would be cool in Lord of the Rings. Just want to throw out there. Just like when Red Raven brought up the wise treant teaching you. Maybe that's the reason why you became a land druid, a land of circle of the land forest druid. You represent the very trees and oak and yew trees around you, the treants around you. That's your thing. That's the reason why you did that. There's also give some other examples like you were just youngsters traveling around the forest and you just met some random old guy in the forest who taught you until unfortunately somebody else betrayed him. That's kind of dark, actually. Holy moly, that's dark. One of the students betrayed him.
They do have a very possible dark treasured item too.
Mm-hmm.
In here, a rattle made from a dried gourd and holly berries. That could be multiple things. That could be your rattle from when you were a child, or it could be a rattle of a child you lost.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, so yeah, you can always go dark with these things.
You can always go dark too. That's part of the whole with my experienced players. If you don't want to use the tables, role play with it. Go for it. Yeah. Just make it something you make.
Like I have a paladin whose origin story very much harkens back to Guts in Berserk. If anybody is familiar with that anime, if it's an extremely dark birth. Um, so I won't go into further detail. You know.
What? That was great detail. But Red Raven, you just reminded me. I can't believe I forgot. I have a druid that we should have brought up as an example, which we'll bring up more example when we talk about the second subtype. But so his mentor, his name is Razak. He's a goblin. I kind of mentioned him in one of the other episodes. So he's a druid of the Circle of the Shepherd, which we'll be talking about. So his items, for example, his guiding aspect is he wants to be the surviving creatures in the sewers, like the cockroaches, the spider. That's so messed up. The spiders, the snakes. He wants to be
His mentor was a giant rat named Splinter.
Actually, it was Da. Da is his mentor technically, but not in the classic way. It's just how he got around the sewers, how he was able to sneak around. But that's his guiding aspect, and also who pseudo mentor was. In fact, he doesn't even technically know he's a druid right now. All he knows is he has special powers. It's kind of
He's
cool.
not a bright character. It's pretty funny.
He's got 6 intelligence. Let's see, but he's pretty cool. So we'll talk about a little bit more about later. But I did want to let you know that I also have a druid character that we'll be talking about. All right, Red Raven, Circle of Dreams. I'll let you lead it up. We don't have to worry about
dreams.
We don't have to worry about spells with druids, by the way. So
Thank God. No. So Circle of Dreams. These are druids that have connection to the Feywild and stream-like realms. Is what it's saying. This probably reminds me of the most from probably pop culture is going to be your World of Warcraft druids, the Dreamers, the interacting with the Emerald Dream. It is very much what this reminds me of. But you have a strong connection with the Fey and the Feywild, leading into the first feature that you get, the Balm of the Summer Court. Now the Fey are broken up into multiple aspects, courts and such. The Summer Court is not exactly good, but they represent summer. They're warm and bright, just as the Winter Court is. So the Summer Court is warm and logical and emotional. The Winter Court is cold and logical.
except
Kind of representing different, except for Jack Frost apparently. But you have a connection to the Summer Court, so you're imbued with the blessings of them. You're a font of energy that offers respite from injuries. You have a pool of Fey energy represented by the number of D6s equal to your Druid level. So as a bonus action, you can choose one creature that you can see within 120 feet, pretty big range there, and spend a number of those dice equal to half your Druid or less. Roll the spent dice and add them there. The target regains a number of hit points equal to that total. The target also gains 1 temporary hit point per die spent. And you regain all the expended dice at the end of the long rest. So good way to roleplay this. Yeah, good way to roleplay this is, and when you're using it, you kind of start radiating warmth and light, representing the Summer Court, and you can kind of like cast that light at the creature you're going to heal, and then they kind of glow with it for a little while too.
Hey, that's a really good idea, actually. You can pretty much make them feel the warmth of the Summer Court that you do interacting with them. You know what? Mechanically, funnily enough, whoever's played a Paladin, for any of my experienced players, this is pretty much an improved version of Lay on Hands ability. Because it's ranged, it has good healing and also gives you temporary hit points. But the catch is you have to pick a subclass. So think of it as the Lay on Hands, but better.
Well, you also can't cure status elements with this.
That is true. Lay on Hands, you can. Well, but you can do some pre-far range healing, which is kind of surprising, actually.
You can, yeah, because most larger healing spells like Cure Wounds are touch. What was the phrase? You have to touch yourself to heal?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm a Lay on Hands myself.
Yep.
Never try that, guys. Unless you have to. So the next one is the Hearth and Moonlight and Shadow. So there's the Glamour Court and the Gloaming Court. They're more the darkness and the mysticism forts. Not mysticism, but the deception courts. And with the Gloaming Court, whenever you take a rest with your companions, like you make camp, things of that nature, you can actually help guard your campground, so to speak. And this is at 6th level. At the start of a rest, you can touch a point in space, and an invisible 30-foot radius sphere of magic appears, centered on that point. Total cover blocks the spheres. That's just a rule, like, for example, rocks, things of that nature. Let's see. But while you're in the sphere, all the creatures and your allies within it get +5 dexterity stealth checks and wisdom perception checks. So they get better at hearing, they get better at they get better at not being seen, they get better at being able to sense footsteps, see people, things of that nature. Let's see, and any flames or light sources inside that sphere cannot be seen from outside. Let's see, it does vanish at the end of your rest. It's pretty much just a great way to guard you while you're resting, so you don't get like surprise attacked or people don't know where you're camping exactly.
Yeah, or you're in a dungeon and you need to rest. Right here, find a corner, cast this, get out of the way from monsters.
Just make sure the dungeon has poisonous air. That's always a bad idea.
Yeah. Like that one, like what's it, the hidden tome of Tomoe-chan?
Note to self, never again.
Yeah.
All right, so take it away, Red Raven.
Next is hidden paths. Starting at 10th level, you can use the hidden magical pathways of some Fae use to traverse space in a blink of an eye. As a bonus action on your turn, you can teleport up to 60 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, you can use your action to teleport one willing creature you touch up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. You can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier, and you regain all expended uses of it when you finish a long rest. So a little link spell there to kind of pop to the other side of the battlefield or away or run or help you. But the great thing is you can help somebody else do it too.
And the cool thing... Oh, go ahead.
Oh. Get somebody outside of combat quickly that's injured or something like that. I would see this maybe as you opening a small portal to the Feywild, hopping in, and then going to another port and hopping right back out, and that's how you're traversing. The way I would see this, of course, if you're in the Feywild, that explanation might not work so well.
So, and speaking of which, you can actually do some really cool roleplay with things with this. So to represent the Feywild or to represent nature, as you're doing this to yourself or others, you could do, depending on what your druid's like, you could do little kind of little extra effects, like when they disappear, fireflies are in their spot, like flying around, or leaves are just floating down from where they were standing, kind of like the Naruto Shushin Jutsu. Or what else could you do, Red Raven?
Maybe have like some dancing lights or something that appears and poof. Maybe don't do the smell of sulfur. Maybe a smell of roses.
Yeah, or maybe actually flowers are where they left. Things like that. So actually, that's pretty cool. I like just to show the different quartz and how they would affect it. Or maybe if it's the frozen quartz, it's like snowflakes fall on the ground or something.
Yeah, you leave behind some ice, patch ice.
Nifty. Let's see. Last but not least, one of my favorite abilities is the Walker in Dreams. It grants the ability to travel mentally or physically through dreamlands. So for when you finish short rest, this is the mechanical part. When you finish short rest, you can cast one of the following spells without expending any spell slots, or using any material components such as Dream, with you as the messenger, so you would show up in somebody's dream, Scrying, or Teleportation Circle. So we're going to talk about the Dream and Scrying part. So the Dream, if you've watched the show Supernatural, there's an episode where they have to go into people's dreams to find I think it was the aspect of death, because the Grim Reaper there went missing, but they were dream hopping pretty much. It's kind of like that. You're dream hopping, but you're talking to people through their dreams, like you're giving them visions, all that kind of cool stuff, or you're giving them a message, all kinds of cool stuff. You're in their dreams by using Fey magic. Next is Scrying. It's your classic information-based spell. Like, I'll let Red Raven talk about it a little bit more.
Yes. So Scrying allows you to view others, gain information about somebody you know. It can be resisted if they're not willing, but this is going to come down to more of the GM, how they display that information to you, how they show it to you. So whether that DM has your vision go through kind of a trip, like flying through the air, or if you just kind of see it through shadow or something like that, um, that's how that spell would probably play out.
Funnily enough, the spell gets easier to cast the more you know the person or the more things you have. For example, use some examples. If you have secondhand knowledge of the person, they get a higher chance to save against your spell. If you have firsthand because you met them, they have no bonuses to save. If you're familiar with them,
if you have an item of theirs, even more so.
Exactly, or if you have like a lock of hair or something like that, it makes it easier for you to cast a spell against them and harder for them to save. And last but not least, teleportation circle. I'll read the rest of the ability. The use of teleportation circle is special. Rather than opening a portal to a permanent teleportation circle, it opens a portal to the last location where you finished the long rest, on the current plane of existence. If you haven't taken a long rest on your current plane, the spell fails, but isn't wasted. So remember that camp we were talking about with the gloaming court? Pretty much, if that was the last time you took a rest, you're back there. You're in an area that you know most likely is safe, that you know you've inspected and you've stayed there. That's where it sends you.
Or if you need to hop out of a dungeon, you have an extra, teleport spell or something like that. Pop out, use this feature to pop back in.
Actually, Red Raven, you're a genius. I take it everybody's played Pokemon before. I hope so. Yeah, you played Pokemon, right, Red Raven?
Yeah, I've played Pokemon.
The greatest example of this teleportation circle is the escape rope from Pokemon. When you're in a dungeon and it takes you back to the last Pokemon Center, think of it exactly like that. This is exactly what this teleportation circle is. It's an escape rope for D&D. Peace, guys. I'm out.
Yep, pretty much.
So
that way you don't have to have like a specific, you don't have to target a specific teleportation circle. You don't have to like you really don't, because you don't have to set up a teleportation circle, because in order to set up a teleportation circle, you have to cast teleportation circle in a place for 30 days straight.
Well, if you want to be permanent, it's a year.
Yeah. Okay, a year.
But you say if you want to be permanent, but if you want to be quick, but you also have to do things like chalk circles. You have to do a lot of things. This you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it. So it saves you some time.
Again, roleplay, you could do the same thing you did before. You could say like fireflies are in your position where you left, or like patches of ice, all kinds of cool stuff. Just depends on how you want to do it. Same thing with the dreams. You could say you come in as what would be Red Raven for the dream spell? What court would you use, and how would you represent it in somebody's dream?
I mean, it's going to depend on the character.
That's true.
If you're going you could appear as a being wreathed in light, wreathed in light, light and warmth, or a being in darkness, shrouded in darkness.
Or if you want to have the people you tell the message see, let's say, I'm going to use the Jack Frost from the Guardians thing again. Let's say you're a disciple of Jack Frost from the Winter Court. Their dream turns into like a little small snowy cottage, and you're just sitting out there in the snow, making snow angels, trying to tell them a message, things of that nature. You could do little things to roleplay it.
Yeah.
I do like
or if you're a female, you can always appear as like Maeve or Mab, the Queen of Air and Darkness from the Winter Court. So she might take some offense to it.
Or actually, no, you make a good point. If you're female, you could actually show up in the middle of a forest with a bunch of forest nymphs and dryads with you, just hopping around their dream.
Or if you're male, you can do that too.
Absolutely.
D&D is inclusive.
This is very true. Anyway, but that's actually some great examples, and I liked how he uses the classic light and shadowy being. I have a message for you from the great beyond. Anyway, so now we're on one of my favorite subclasses in the whole book. I'm a little biased with this one because I really like it, but as fair warning, Circle of the Shepherd is a very difficult one to play if you are a newer player, because it has a lot of connections to what's called the action economy in D&D, which is turns, attacks, things of that nature, because their whole point is summoning creatures and helping the denizens of the forest. And how it can kind of ruin the action economy is it can take up a lot of the turns other players would be taking. It makes combat very bogged. So if you're something like 16 rats, unless you roll them all at the same time, like you roll them as one group, it's gonna be hard for people to like wait for their turns. You're gonna get the classic, "Hey, I'm on my phone" until he finishes combat.
This is where it helps having an experienced DM, because if you're summoning 16 rats, I'm probably going to have that act as a swarm.
Yep. Or
that is going to be a rat swarm, is what you're summoning.
The only other way you can do it is if they're like, "Hey, don't do the swarm, do his individual rolls." As weird as it sounds, do the Warhammer roll, which is grab all the dice and drop them. The Warhammer roll is, so for people who played Warhammer, is where you roll damage at the same time, you roll attacks at the same time for every being in the party. But it will kind of mess up the table, but that is what you can do if they really want you to do it separately, which is fine.
Get a dice tray.
Oh, that's true. Or another way you can do it to speed up time is roll your damage and attacks at the same time, so you don't have to roll them separately. You know you hit, bam. There's your damage right there. You know you're hit, bam. The only time you have to re-roll is if you get a critical.
Or roll all your hits and then count how many you hit and then roll your damage.
Bingo. The Warhammer way too.
Yep.
Roll to hit, 5 hits.
So you got 3 hits. Yeah, this is good for fighters and barbarians as well. Like I got 3 attacks. I'll roll 3 d20s. I'll hit 2 of them. I'll roll damage for 2 attacks.
Sweet. Yeah. Anyway, so now we're going to actually get to the subclass, because, again, I'm really excited. Mrazak is one of these druids. So, I'll start it off. Circle of the Shepherds. They commune with the spirits of nature. They also take care of the beast and the denizens of different environments. They are your... So, they're your defenders of wildlife. They're your Smokey the Bears protecting the creatures and things of that nature. Except
they're quite literally the shepherd.
Yeah, they're literally the shepherd. In fact, I do like the picture they have. Again, I wish I could show you. It's a girl. It's a young girl like playing with a bunch of pups, wolf pups. So they can even talk to animals, things of that nature. In fact, we're about to talk about that ability. At level 2, when you get this circle, you gain the ability to converse with beast and fae. You learn to read, write, and speak Sylvan, which is the fae language. Some languages may vary depending on the court, but most of them speak Sylvan. Let's see. And the beast can understand what you're saying, almost like it's their language. And you gain to... It's weird. You don't understand. Like, they don't speak in a normal language you would understand, but you can decipher their meanings from motions and sounds they make. So, go ahead.
Very simple, similar to a racial ability gnomes have, or forest gnomes have, which is communicate with tiny beasts, where you know their body language and their squeaks, and you can communicate with them.
Ayo. Let's see. Now you don't have to be a gnome. You can just be a Circle of the Shepherd druid.
Yeah. So of course, yeah, this is pretty useful. You don't have to rely on the spell, talk with beasts or anything like that. You are only, of course, limited to the information that creature knows, and a lot of beasts aren't extremely intelligent. So you might not be getting much knowledgeable information or specific information that you want.
Luckily, you could try to communicate in a way where they would understand. Like, if you were looking for something, you could say, "Red man," or "red," and then you point to yourself, and they say, "Oh," like, not in that language, but they could show you the way, or they could tell you if one passed or not. But you could even make this into a friendship aspect, depending if you do favors or if you're able to help the beast in some way. Like, you calm them down if they're stuck in a trap and you free them. That might form a friendship with that beast or that creature. Or heck, the fake creature's watching you doing that. They're like, what's going on? This guy's helping those bears.
Oh, a little thing to add. You do learn to speak, read, and write Sylvan.
Oh, I said that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I said it can change depending on the court. So, sorry about that. My apologies.
Well, no, I mean, Sylvan.
Hey.
But yeah.
I'll let Red Raven talk about the spirit totems.
Spirit totems. So, as a barbarian, I like totems. So starting at 2nd level, you can call forth nature spirits to influence the world around you. As a bonus action, you can magically summon an incorporeal spirit to a point you can see within 60 feet of you. The spirit creates an aura in a 30-foot radius around the point. It counts as neither a creature nor an object, though it has the spectral appearance of the creature it represents. As a bonus action, you can move it up to 60 feet, and it persists for a minute or until you're knocked out. You can use it once unless you finish a short or a long rest. And of course, depending on what you summon, it does different things. So your options are Bear Spirit, Hawk Spirit, and Unicorn Spirit. The Bear grants you and your allies its might and endurance. You gain temporary hit points equal to 5 plus your Druid level. In addition, you have advantage on strength checks and strength saving throws while in the aura. The Hawk does the same thing with Wisdom, perception checks, and your creature, your allies with keen sight. When a creature makes an attack roll against a target in the spirit's aura, you can use your reaction to grant advantage to that attack roll. Now the Unicorn, which we all like unicorns. The Unicorn Spirit lends its protection to those nearby. You and your allies gain advantage on all ability checks made to detect creatures in that spirit's aura. In addition, you can cast a spell using a spell slot that restores hit points to any creature inside or outside the aura. Each creature of your choice in the aura, that's a hard word to say, also regains hit points equal to your Druid level.
So pretty much you get free healing for spells you cast, is the gist of that one.
Yeah.
The way you can roleplay this, it's actually pretty cool. So I'm going to use the MTG reference again. There was a scene in one of the Innistrad stories where Geist went into the bodies of warriors to help them stave off corruption. You could use something kind of like that. You could say, like, when Red Raven was talking about the bear spirit, the spirit of a giant primal bear shows up, and then he roars, and you see little bears, like, jumping little bears. Smaller bears, spirits jumping into the bodies of people within the range of this giant bear, and kind of, like, empowering them and making them look kind of bulkier and more ferocious. Or what would you do, Red Raven, for example, for like the Hawk or like Unicorn, for example?
So the Unicorn, maybe like it shoots beams out of its horns surrounding the aura. Like the aura is represented by like moonbeams or rainbows coming out of its horn.
Yeah, I like that. And that
or if you want a funnier appearance, coming out of its butt.
Using the, what is it? Crap, what's that game? Borderlands.
There's plenty of illustrations of unicorns farting rainbows, like that commercial, the Squatty Potty. If you have not seen that one commercial, go watch it. It's hilarious.
So how Razak does this is Razak is actually going to go with the Hawk, not the Hawk. He's going to go with the bear, and his is instead of.
I mean, you don't have to choose one. You only choose one when you summon it.
So and you can change it.
You have access to all three. Yeah,
this is true. But when he summons one, it's going to be represented usually by a smaller creature because he's friends with smaller creatures. So a bear to smaller creatures would be what, like you could say, like a badger or something. That'd be the big to them.
It'd be cool. Well, he wouldn't know what a koala is, but
do it. I'm doing koalas now. The koala spirit.
Maybe the hawk's a pigeon, I guess.
Yep. The hawk's a pigeon.
The unicorn.
The bear's a koala.
A jackalope.
Even better. No, the unicorn's gonna be a donkey. A mule.
With a horn just tied around its head.
I like it.
It's a donkey. It's a mule with a part. Is what it is.
Got it. So he's my funnier character. He's one of the funniest characters to play. I'll have to tell you guys stories later when we do some like free talk. So next ability is Mighty Summoner. At 6th level, beasts and fae you can cure are more resilient. This is that you can summon beasts as a druid and creatures, and they actually get extra hit points per hit die they have. We're mentioning hit dice again. I know it's a little confusing, but we're going to use this as an example. Luckily, I have the list of creatures available you can summon pretty quickly. Also thanks to an app I use, the companion app on the App Store. So let's say you summon, we're going to say baboons. Baboons' hit dice are 1. They have 1 hit dice, and they usually have 3 hit points. But because of this ability, each one you summon would have an extra 2 hit points, because it has 1 hit dice, making it 5. Doesn't sound like that much, but we're going to go ahead and move to a bigger creature, a brown bear. A brown bear has 4 hit dice. They start with an extra 8 hit points, going from 34 to 42, which when you summon about 4 bears, that's an extra like almost 160 health points right there. That's why I said the action economy can get really messed up because of this. They also they do damage in a magical form instead of their normal weaponry of claws, teeth. They do magic damage instead of regular damage, so they can fight against resistance. Kind of like other classes would get benefits.
Yeah. But you got to remember, you are by what you're summoning is controlled by the spell you're using. So this feature is not a spell. It just augments the spells you're already casting to summon these creatures.
It makes things better.
Yeah, and to show it to if you're role playing this, maybe you open like a small portal, or either it just springs to life from the plants. Maybe the bears form from plants that grow up and then they turn into a bear or a dryad or something.
Absolutely. And to roleplay this theme, like this this augment, you could just say as they appear, they grow in size, or they their claws seem to have like a wavy effect to them, things of that nature. If you wanted to roleplay this particular effect. Moving on to the next effect, which is pretty cool. Red Raven will take over. It's Guardian Spirit.
Guardian Spirit. Beginning at 10th level, your spirit totem safeguards the beast and fae that you call forth with your magic. When a beast or fae that you summoned or created with the spell ends its turn in your spirit totem aura, that creature regains a number of hit points equal to half your druid level. So this augments both. This plays into your other features pretty well. It all adds on to your totem spirit, giving it the ability to heal those already boosted creatures that you summon.
It's pretty cool. Which again, you could roleplay as like little plants, or like orbs of energy, or flecks of light,
or rainbows.
Or
rainbows arc into it and heal it.
Leaves, like exactly. So the last ability, which is Faithful Summons, this is actually one of the Ranger's abilities, which is now actually one of the Druid's abilities now. Let's see. So Faithful Summons at 14th level, the spirits of nature will actually commune to protect you if anything were to happen to you and you're at your most defenseless. If you're reduced to 0 hit points, or you're incapacitated, like somebody captures you and ties you up against your will, you'll immediately cast, like not you, but the forest itself will cast Conjure Animals at a 9th level spell slot for you. You can summon 4 beasts that are challenge rating 2 or lower. Let's see, and they appear within 20 feet of you. If you cannot command them, they protect you to the best of their ability, and they protect you from harm and will attack any foes that try to harm you. They last for an hour, which is amazingly good. Let's see, and you can only use it once per rest, but to me that's amazing because there's a lot of challenge 2 rating creatures that can really mess people up. Like a lot of them. And most of them are dinosaurs.
This is also a defensive ability. Mainly because you're down at 0 hit points, so you can't control them. This is probably designed to. They take guard over your body while you're unconscious.
Well, if you're incapacitated, you can command them against your will. But yes, it is meant to be protected because usually most of the time you'll be at 0 hit points, or you won't be in a position where you can give commands. But they will try to protect you to the best of their ability, and they're really amazing creatures. Like you can do giant constrictor snakes, polar bears, all kinds of cool stuff. Let's see, whatever nature decides to summon for you.
I think Conjure Animals. I think you have to know the creature.
Is
that correct?
That's the B shape. You're thinking B shape.
Okay.
Conjure Animals, it helps know the creatures. That's up to the DM. Ultimately, it's the DM decides what creatures you summon, depending on the environment. So, for example, if you're like, I want to summon polar bears, and you're in the middle of like the desert, they're gonna be like, okay.
Well, it's like I want to summon dinosaurs. Like what?
Work again.
Summon pixies, and pixies polymorph you guys into T-Rex.
Work with Nerdarchy, by the way, great channel watcher.
Yeah.
Work with your DM, because so technically there is no exceptions to Conjure Animals, but most of the time the DM will tell you what you can summon. Let's see, they'll be like, okay, you're in the forest lands. Obviously, when you cast Conjure Animals, it's going to be something from forest lands, like wolves.
Yeah. Well, I mean, other than the challenge rating.
Yes. Challenge rating, they're like, bam, here's your list. Pick whatever you want from that list, as long as it fits within challenge rating. But no dinosaurs, for example, or no fell beasts, things of that nature. So now that we've finished talking about the subclasses, we're going to bring up one more table. It's a bonus addendum table. Speaking of the B shape, that Xanathar's Guide added, which helps a lot of newer players and older players out, and stops a lot of arguments in their tracks before they even start.
Well, just to remember, these aren't rolling tables. These are CR tables to give you lists. These are more lists than
this
tables.
is more of a list table, but this is to help more stop debates, because one of the biggest debate as a Druid player, especially if you're a Circle of the Moon, was what have you seen in your life? What do you know to turn into? Because beast shapes are creatures you've had to see. You've had to seen them, but to turn into them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in most D&D campaigns, you're probably not going to know what Ceratops looks like.
Absolutely. Luckily, this table helps out depending from where you've been raised or where you've been living as a druid. It gives you a list of creatures you most likely have seen. So you could say, hey, I lived in the Arctic. These are the creatures I probably would have seen. It can help you and hurt you because you may not have seen creatures that most other people would see. Like, so for example, you've never seen a house cat, but you've seen owls, or giant owls, bloodhawks, brown bears, things of that nature, and mammoths. But the first time, you're probably like, what the heck is a cat? But then after you see it, then you can transform into it. But then if somebody likes, hey, transform into a T-Rex, you really can't do that because you've never seen one. This just helps cut a lot of debates out of D&D groups, because you can say, this is the stuff I think I know because I used to live here. And if the DM agrees with you, go for it. If not, then try to work out something with your DM. Ultimately, Druids are a class you need to work with your DM a lot on.
Yeah. Now, also keep in mind that, these are the biomes these creatures in. Not just because you lived in a forest does not give you access to, say, a giant wasp. They might not be native to that part of the continent.
That is very true.
Just because you lived in grassland, and you might not have seen a Triceratops or an Ankylosaurus, or even an elephant. Because those are grasslands, but let's say North American grasslands are a bit more differently populated with creatures than the African grasslands.
That's very true.
So again, you got to partner with your DMs on any of this, just to figure out what their world entails, because it really is it's your story, but it's the DM's world. Same thing with picking gods. If you pick a god that might not be native to that plane, there might be consequences. Weaker influence or something like that. And I think the most important thing about all of this is when you are role-playing in combat, if you want to describe something, do it once. Do not do it every time. Because the barbarian that just wants to hit it with its axe is going to probably get very upset with you, artfully describing how, your unicorn shoots rainbows out its butt.
Let's see. So, ultimately, this is another addendum. Remember, you are not. This is a shared short. Luckily, CJ, the guy who runs that channel I mentioned a couple episodes ago, that Never Stop Thinking, who does D&D series, this is a shared storytelling experience. This is not meant to be everybody's against you or you're against everybody. Everybody's experiencing it. So, respect them as they would respect you. Hopefully they would respect you. At that point, that's something else you need to get to find in a group. And same thing with your DM. It's just as much your story as it's just as yours. And most DMs will work with you. Most DMs are not out to get you. They're not like, hey, I can't wait to kill off my players. So, Druids...
Some of them are.
Some of them are. But, however, now you hear there, some players like that. But, ultimately, with Druids, they're one of the hardest classes to play without consulting a DM or your party. But they're very fun. Once everybody's okay with it, they're a very fun class. They've been one of my favorite classes to play. I played Razak, is the one I told you about, the Circle of Shepherd. He's really fun. He's a comedic one. He uses a lot of insects and pest is his whole thing, because that's what live in sewers. And my other one I played for a short bit was Girahim, and his thing is he worshipped cats, like cat creatures like lions, tigers, bears. Not bears, lions, tigers, things of that nature, and that's what he would shapeshift into, because he thought they were the apex predator.
Wasn't he an NPC in one of our campaigns?
No, that was... You're thinking of him, No, you're right. Girahim was the NPC. Grukum was the cat guy. Girahim was my wolf one who wanted to pretty much restart his pack that had died off. But anyway, Thanks for.
I think also
Go
want
ahead.
to say that clerics are always needed in any party. They're always useful, and they're also kind of fun to play because you have anyone that worships. You have a god. You have a very specific connection to that world
This is very true.
that's already kind of built in, and it's easy to build a role play around that. Um,
To add to the
whether
clerics.
yeah, whether it be like some little known god or again a well known god, or even if you want to be a planar traveler and have a god from some other plane. So
That was very well said.
yeah, get creative and have fun.
Yep. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Explain to Me D&D 5e. Let's see. We were glad to have all y'all. We look forward to talking about fighters next time, which is a class I am well versed in. I believe also Red Raven is well versed in. I think you've played a fighter before, correct?
I have not.
Oh, okay. So
I've toyed with it. I am designing a fighter as peak, just because I made a mini and in here in online, and I now that fighter.
So then, in
gonna
that
happen.
case, it should be exciting because I played an assassin fighter, I played a archaeologist fighter, I played a lot of fighters, so I am excited. We look forward to talking about it next week, and leave comments and suggestions, or if you have any questions, send us messages. I have an Instagram. I probably should mention that. Some people told me to mention that. I'm gonna have this video put on my Instagram. So if you have any questions, just shoot me a hit. I'll be glad to help.
Me as well. I too have an Instagram. I think everybody has an Instagram. Mine's more cosplay oriented because I do my own cosplay. I just started the Instagram, so it's not exactly super populated. But check out Dwarven Beard Cosplay if you're interested in. And also, you can message me if you have any ideas on D&D as well. I'm always willing to help.
Thanks again. Y'all have a good night.
Good night.